of Jesus Christ, I command you to reveal your identity.
The 5 most terrifying and strange cases documented by the Warrens. Number 5. The Amityville Horror. One of the most controversial and frightening cases of all time. On November 13, 1974, Ronald DeFeo Jr., 23 years old, killed his entire family while they were sleeping. At 3:15 in the morning, DeFeo grabbed a shotgun and ended the lives of his father Ronald, 44, his mother Lois, 43, and his 4 siblings, Dawn, 18, Allison, 13, Mark, 12, and John, 9. The most chilling part is that Ronnie, with no remorse, went to a local bar, the Witch's Brew, and told Joe Yeswit, a worker there, that someone had shot his family. Terrified, Joe decided to accompany him to his house, where they found the gruesome scene. Joe gave several versions of the story to the police, but none were believed. He eventually confessed to committing the brutal crimes, claiming that strange voices he heard in his house had forced him to do it. The judge and jury found this absurd, especially because the suspect had a minor criminal record and a penchant for drugs. He was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. But what would happen next in the house would confirm the young man's statements. The following year, the Lutz family bought the house at a significantly reduced price, unaware that their lives were about to turn into a nightmare. From the first day, George and Kathy Lutz, along with their 3 children, began experiencing inexplicable phenomena: foul odors, black stains on the fixtures, and swarms of flies in the middle of winter were just the beginning. George would wake up for no apparent reason every night at 3:15 a.m., the same time the DeFeo murders occurred. The situation quickly worsened. The Lutzes claimed to see demonic figures, objects moving on their own, and hear disturbing voices. Kathy claimed to have been levitated and pushed by an invisible force. On one particularly terrifying night, the family discovered a secret room in the basement, completely painted red. George claimed the room emanated a malevolent energy. It was then they decided they could not endure any longer. The family endured these events for 28 days before fleeing the house in the middle of the night, leaving all their belongings behind. Ed and Lorraine Warren were called in to investigate the house. Lorraine described the atmosphere as one of the darkest and most oppressive she had ever felt. Lorraine had no idea which room belonged to whom, but as soon as she entered Ronnie's room, she stood in the doorway and said she could not enter because there was great evil and much oppression. Lorraine herself admitted that the Amityville case was the most terrifying of her career, even claiming that the place was as close to hell as she ever wanted to be in her life, and she had no intention of crossing that line. The Warrens conducted a series of investigations, during which they captured a famous photograph that appeared to show the ghost of a child. Number 4. The Harrisville Witch Case. The famous Harrisville Witch Case, which inspired the film The Conjuring, involves the Perron family, who experienced terrifying paranormal events in their home. In January 1971, the Perron family, consisting of Roger and Carolyn Perron and their 5 daughters, moved into an 18th-century colonial farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island. Soon, the family began to notice they were not alone in the house. At first, the events were benign: objects disappearing and reappearing, and unexplained noises. But soon, the experiences turned more sinister. The family saw spectral apparitions, and the girls were attacked by invisible forces that pushed them and pulled their hair. Carolyn Perrone contacted Ed and Lorraine Warren, renowned paranormal investigators. Lorraine Warren sensed the presence of several entities in the house. Initially, they seemed harmless. Described as opaque in appearance, there were numerous spirits inhabiting the old house. One of these ghosts had a peculiar smell of flowers, while another was so kind that it would give the girls a goodnight kiss. During their investigations, they uncovered the story of Bathsheba Sherman. Through historical records and interviews with local residents, the Warrens discovered that Bathsheba Sherman had lived on the property in the 19th century. In 1863, Sherman gave birth to a child. When the baby was a week old, her husband caught her trying to sacrifice the baby to the devil. Furious, she climbed to the top of a tree, proclaimed her love for Satan, and cursed all who would take her land. This entity was identified by Lorraine Warren as the primary malevolent force in the house. Carolyn Perrone was the most affected by Bathsheba's entity. She reported seeing the figure of this woman appearing in the house, threatening her, and physically attacking her. On one occasion, Carolyn was levitated and violently thrown by an invisible force. It is said that Bathsheba will torment all families that come to the place and eventually possess the mother of the family and end the lives of the children present before forcing the mothers to end their own lives. The Warrens documented several paranormal events and performed exorcism sessions in an attempt to free the family from the torment. Despite their efforts, the paranormal events continued, and the Perrone family had to live with these presences for nearly a decade. Many young people began to visit the grave, and some took pieces of it for witchcraft work. These stones contain very dangerous demonic energy. Over time, the Warrens managed to collect the majority of the stolen stones, which are now displayed in the couple's museum. But Bathsheba's spirit was not the only demonic and threatening one. There was another spirit, which the family never dared to talk about. What this spirit did to the family was truly terrifying. It did not attack the parents, but it had malicious intentions towards the 5 young girls. Andrea Perrone, the eldest daughter of the family, documented her family's experiences in a series of books titled House of Darkness, House of Light. In her accounts, Andrea suggests that one of the spirits in the house was especially malevolent. Andrea describes this spirit as an evil man who might have abused them. The presence of this spirit added an even greater layer of horror to the already traumatic experiences of the family. When asked about the spirit during an interview, she avoided the question, telling the reporter, "Let's just say there was a very bad male spirit in the house with 5 defenseless girls." Certainly an episode that no one wants to remember or talk about. Number 3, the Annabelle Case. Annabelle, the possessed doll, is one of the most infamous objects in the Warrens' collection, and its story is so terrifying that its multiple films do not come close to the horror and bloodshed behind it. It all began in 1970, when Donna, a young nursing student, received a Raggedy Ann doll as a gift from her mother. At first, it seemed like a simple rag doll, but soon strange things began to happen. The roommates noticed that the doll changed positions on its own, and then they found notes written on parchment paper that said, "Help us and help Lou," with Lou being Donna's boyfriend. The next incident was also startling. The 2 friends found the doll with drops of blood on its chest and hands, prompting them to seek the help of a medium to conduct a séance in the apartment. Through this, they discovered that the doll was possessed by the spirit of a little girl named Annabelle Higgins, who had died on the land where the building was constructed. The spirit said it felt at peace living with the 2 girls, so it wanted to continue living in the house in the form of the doll. The young women, moved by the story, allowed the spirit to remain in the doll. They were unaware that the supposed spirit of Annabelle was actually hiding a more demonic presence, but the events that followed would leave an indelible mark. Lou, Donna's boyfriend, began having horrible nightmares about Annabelle. One night, after waking from a bad dream, he looked at the foot of his bed and was horrified to see the terrifying figure of the rag doll. The toy climbed onto his bed within seconds and tried to strangle him, though it only succeeded in making him faint. After regaining consciousness, Lou immediately went to his girlfriend's house, determined to destroy the doll. However, upon arriving, they heard noises coming from the bedroom, as if several people were talking there. When they entered, they saw no one, only Annabelle sitting in a corner. At that exact moment, Lou felt a sharp pain in his chest. When he opened his shirt, it was astonishingly soaked in blood, revealing 7 distinct claw marks, 3 vertical and 4 horizontal, that tore at his skin as if they were burns. Convinced that the spirit animating the doll was hostile and malevolent, Donna and her friends contacted ecclesiastical authorities, who then put them in touch with Ed and Lorraine Warren. The Warrens were able to determine that the doll was not possessed by the spirit of a child, but by a demonic entity that sought to possess Donna's soul. To keep the 3 young people safe, the Warrens decided to take Annabelle to their home, but this almost cost the couple their lives. During the trip, the car's engine, steering, and brakes failed at every turn. The steering wheel inexplicably turned in the opposite direction, trying to lead the couple to a fatal accident. The malfunctions only ceased when Ed Warren sprinkled the rag doll with holy water. Once at the investigators' home, the incidents did not escalate further. The doll was seen walking around the house, levitating, and constantly sitting in Ed Warren's chair. The presence always felt hostile and behaved poorly with the couple's visitors, especially with Catholic priests. The final straw was a visit from Father Jason Bradford, who, upon seeing the doll sitting in Ed's chair, was filled with rage and took it, saying, "You're just a rag doll, you can't hurt anyone." The Warrens were shocked by this event and begged the priest to stay the night at the house. They were extremely worried that something might happen to him on his journey, as the priest might have unleashed the demon's wrath. He refused to stay, but promised to call when he arrived at his destination. When the priest left the Warrens' house, his car suffered a brake failure and ended up off the road. The priest miraculously survived. Finally, they had a glass case built and enclosed Annabelle inside. Over the years, she became one of the main attractions of the famous occult museum, where she remains today. The doll never moved again, but several years ago, she demonstrated that her power was still intact. A teenager visiting the museum with his girlfriend mocked the doll, began hitting the case, and yelled at her to manifest if she truly had power. When Ed Warren heard this, he rebuked the young man and expelled them from the museum, hoping it would be enough to calm the spirit. Unfortunately, the doll's fury had already been unleashed. The couple left on their motorcycle, mocking and joking about the doll. Suddenly, the young man lost control of the vehicle and crashed into a tree. The teenager died on the spot, and his companion spent nearly a year hospitalized. The last thing the woman remembers is laughing at Annabelle before waking up in the hospital with the news that her boyfriend had died instantly. The doll remains in a sealed glass case with a clear warning, positively, "Do not open." Number 2. The Enfield Poltergeist Case. This paranormal phenomenon terrorized a family in London during the 1970s, and the Warrens were called in to help solve the mystery. It all began in 1977 when the Hodgson family, consisting of Mother Peggy and her 4 children, started experiencing strange occurrences in their home in Enfield, North London. Unexplained noises, objects moving on their own, and an unsettling atmosphere became part of their daily life. Janet Hodgson, one of the daughters, became the focal point of the paranormal events. The phenomena included levitations, mysterious voices, and a series of manifestations that defied all logical explanation. The intensity of the events and the family's suffering led the Warrens to intervene in the case. The Enfield case not only fascinated paranormal investigators but also inspired books and films, including the successful movie The Conjuring 2. The phenomena began one night when Peggy Hodgson heard loud banging noises coming from her daughter's room. Upon entering, she saw a dresser moving on its own. The banging became a constant occurrence, and soon objects began to levitate and move around the house. 11-year-old Janet Hodgson soon became the epicenter of the events. She was seen levitating by witnesses, and deep voices emanated from her body, claiming to be Bill Wilkins, a man who had died in the house years earlier.
Why can't Janet sue you?
I'm invisible.
You're invisible? Why are you invisible?
So much you H-O-S.
You tell me why you are upsetting this family. Is it because you enjoy doing it? Yes, sir.
The Warrens firmly believed that the events were of a demonic nature. Lorraine Warren, in particular, sensed a strong malignant presence in the house and warned the family about the dangers they faced. After gaining media attention, journalist Guy Lyon Playfair, who entered the house with his investigative team, claimed that a Lego brick struck one of his photographers. Subsequently, Melvin Harris took numerous photographs with the camera set to automatic mode, which purportedly showed the girls levitating in their room. After nearly 2 years of intense activity, the phenomena began to diminish. The Hodgson family reported that the paranormal activities became less frequent until they eventually ceased. Although there was no definitive resolution or clear explanation for why the events stopped, the family was eventually able to return to a normal life. Number 1. The unresolved Smurl Family Case. The Smurls endured years of harassment by malevolent entities in their home in West Pittston, Pennsylvania. It was 1974 when Jack and Janet Smurl moved into their house in West Pittston, Pennsylvania, hoping for a fresh start. However, what they found was a living nightmare. Soon, the house became a hub of terror. Foul odors filled the rooms, dark shadows lurked in every corner, and eerie noises echoed through the night. The phenomena began to intensify. One night, Jack was brutally attacked by an invisible force, leaving deep scratches on his body. Janet, terrified, felt invisible hands grabbing and pushing her. The air was filled with an unbearable stench, and demonic growls disturbed their sleep. But the horrors did not stop there. A demonic entity began tormenting the family, appearing as a dark figure moving through the rooms, causing chaos. Jack and Janet reported being sexually assaulted by this entity, a terror that left them forever scarred. Despite efforts by demonologists to expel the demon through chants and prayers, the events continued until one night when Jack, the father, was attacked by a scaly succubus with an old woman's face and a young body, and Janet experienced a similar ordeal. The Warrens identified 4 demons: an old woman named Abigail, a man named Patrick who had killed his wife and mistress, a psychopath, and a demon. The demon, dressed in a suit, hat with long nails, and always walking hunched over, was the same entity Janet and Mary had seen before. This demon was responsible for controlling the other spirits, forcing them to torment the Smurls. Once discovered, the demon attacked the Warrens, the family's dog, and Jack and Janet themselves. Years went by, and the Warrens conducted 4 exorcisms to defeat the hat-wearing demon, but they were unable to rid the Smurls of it.
In the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to reveal your identity.
The Smurls tried to escape by moving repeatedly, but the malevolent spirit pursued them, attacking the twins, Shannon and Karen, and throwing them against a wall. Despite numerous exorcisms and additional blessings, the attacks persisted. Eventually, the family found partial relief when they moved again and performed more intense exorcisms. Although the phenomena diminished over time, the Smurl family lived with the trauma of their experiences for years. Number 0. While we know that there are cases of demonic entities that attack people, we also know cases around the world of people who have made pacts with demonic beings. These musicians sold their souls for a little more talent and fame. Was it worth it? All the details can be found in this video.